Hello, and thank you for taking the time to review this narrative on my fulfillment of criterion number one. I want to say two things up front about teaching, and one is how much I enjoy it. I've been teaching in continuing ed since 92 and higher ed since 99 when I got started in my doctoral studies. And I have loved it ever since I started doing it. Um, First as a trainer, then as adjunct faculty, and now as resident faculty here at Metro. And the other thing I want to say is that my teaching philosophy is based on engagement. I think that there are many teaching methods, and some are better than others. And I think I can have great methodology, but if I don't have engagement, I miss so many opportunities for making a difference with students. Here's an overview of what I'm going to be talking about in this narrative. And following taking a look at this, I invite you to look at the supporting documentation here on the site. Here are the courses that I've taught to our undergraduate alcohol and drug counseling majors. There's quite a range here, and that's true in terms of student progress, topics, and teaching methods. Students in pharmacology are at the beginning of their program. They're just getting started in the major. And so there's a lot of knowledge base in this course, and there's also the continued formation of some basic academic study and writing and similar skills. Students in the co-occurring course are in the middle of their program, and so the presentations that we use, both instructor and student presentations, are generally briefer, and the students are developing more of their research skills and writing in APA style and like that. And so a lot of the process is collaborative learning. In the practicum course, this is where students are integrating the knowledge and skills that they've developed into clinical practice. And so there's a lot more emphasis on critical thinking and self-evaluation, self-reflection. And we make use of process work a great deal in the classroom. These are the courses that I've taught to our graduate students. And again, you can see that there's quite a bit of range in topic areas and placement in the program. I also particularly want to acknowledge that teaching graduate students is different from teaching undergraduate students. You know, they have a deeper theoretical base, a richer skills development, higher expectations of competence. We're also working in the hybrid environment for most of our graduate courses. So we have online and classroom components distributed fairly evenly, and I use a lot of flipped classroom methods. I don't rely on exams, and focus more on papers and presentations and discussions. And I make particular use of collaborative learning through presentations and discussions. For example, in our ethics course, students do recorded PowerPoints presenting case studies. And in our treatment planning course, students also using recorded PowerPoints discuss community resources. And these go into either PowerPoint or VoiceThread, the tool I'm using for this narrative, and allow students to engage in discussion. Here are the primary methods that I use to gauge and enhance my effectiveness as an instructor. I want to highlight a couple of them. One is peer feedback. In particular, I've taught our senior seminar course 4 times now and worked with 4 different instructors. So I've had a great range of both positive feedback and areas of growth. And I've been able to incorporate that not only with that course, but across my teaching. Of course, I also highly value student feedback through our formal evaluation process and some informal evaluations that I do. And in the documentation, you'll see two examples of ways that I've done course improvement in one undergrad course, pharmacology, and a graduate course, cognitive behavioral therapies. In pharmacology, I did a lot of clarifying of the schedule and expectations in response to student feedback. And I also incorporated something that they found helpful in terms of basic academic and institutional skills in something called the tip of the week. In the cognitive behavioral therapies course, I went to more and more flipped classroom methods in teaching the course. So too much in classroom sort of didactic instruction the first year I taught it. So the second year I moved to recorded PowerPoints. And this year, just this semester, I've moved to using this tool, VoiceThread, for presentations and student discussions. I briefly want to mention the Human Services, Spirituality, and Helping course. It was my pleasure to take the materials that Valerie Gaither developed and to flesh them out into a full course that I'm prepared to teach in multiple modalities, classroom, online, and independent study. And in particular, I'm pleased that we were able to obtain GEL's approval for goal areas 5 and 7. So it's great to have this particular liberal studies course in human services. I, of course, have been heavily involved in developing each of the courses for our graduate programs. I wrote the course descriptions as part of the program applications, and the courses themselves I have either written or I've collaborated on with the faculty who teach them. I've also taken each of the courses for the program through the governance process. Developing our two graduate programs has been some of the most rewarding work that I have done here at Metro State. The first one being the Master of Science in Alcohol and Drug Counseling, which I developed in partnership with Bill Payne, and we took it through approvals, and it was approved in April 2014, and we admitted our first class in the fall of 2015. The Master of Science in Co-occurring Disorders Recovery Counseling is, I think, becoming the flagship graduate program for our department. This was a program that I authored in its entirety and moved through the approvals process. And I think it's worth noting that the program wasn't approved until March of 2016. So our first year of marketing it was the 2016-2017 academic year. And in fall of 2017, as a result of those efforts, we fielded our first full cohort. Program development is an ongoing process, especially in the early years of a program. As you can see from this list, there's a lot involved in it. The first few bullets are things that I've completed, like they're fully in place, and yet they require ongoing improvement. So that's continuing work for me. And then the last few bullets are things that we need to move forward on as a program, more fully implementing evaluation, aligning with and gaining national accreditation, and just working with all aspects of program sustainability. So that's an important part of my focus in the near future. This is an overview of the areas I'm responsible for as the director of both of our graduate programs. In terms of marketing, I collaborate with admissions and marketing to get materials out there, to get presentations out there. I deliver our information sessions, and I meet individually with prospective applicants. I've developed the application process. I review all applications and, in conjunction with my colleagues, of course, participate in all of the interviews. I oversee admissions, And then in terms of retaining students, we try to move smoothly from admissions to orientation. And I'm pretty proud of our orientation. The orientation schedule is in the supporting documentation. I certainly provide ongoing support when students run up against challenges or just have questions. And again, one of my jobs is continuous improvement of both programs and our processes. In terms of maintenance, I'm certainly uh, involved in recruitment of community faculty, and I do the course scheduling for both programs, and I help get the students started on their master's projects and their practicum experiences, which in the preparation stages with me, and then moves to the graduate practicum coordinator. To wrap up this narrative, I want to talk very briefly about how I conceptualize our graduate program at this point. I think of it as a structure, and the foundation of that structure is the therapeutic relationship. We know that counselors are not effective if they can't develop and maintain therapeutic relationships. And so we spend a lot of time in our program nurturing the traits and the skills that foster that kind of effectiveness. Three pillars rest on this foundation, and the first one is evidence for effectiveness. A couple important aspects to this. One of them is we want our students to be competent consumers of the research and competent also in implementing it in clinical settings. We also want students to be aware of the limitations of the research process. We know that a lot of research is not inclusive, it's not gender inclusive, it's not racially inclusive, and so on. And we want students to be able to critically review the literature for those factors as well. The second pillar of our programs is culturally responsive and anti-oppressive practice. Our students need to leave our institution with a strong sense of this at every level, at the structural level, at the level of the intersection of oppression and substance use and co-occurring disorders, and the internal level, the willingness to examine and grapple with their own biases as part of becoming competent and effective counselors. The third pillar is ethical excellence. Of course, we want our students to become professionals who refrain from engaging in doing harm, but that's the most basic level of ethics. So we want our students to leave our institution prepared to grapple with ethical dilemmas and to strive for ethical excellence. Finally, the roof over this structure is competence in the integrated care of co-occurring disorders. For our alcohol and drug counseling master students, that means knowing how their work in addressing substance use disorders fits into the whole clinical picture of integrated care. And for our students in the co-occurring program, this is exactly what they're preparing to do to deliver the integrated care that has been shown to be more effective than treating substance use and mental health concerns in a serial or parallel fashion. So thank you so much again for taking the time to review this narrative, and I invite you to explore the supporting documentation on the site by going to the menu bar up above and clicking on teaching and going to each of the submenus. Thank you.